5,
4,
3,
2,
1. Hi, Tribe. I'm Virsaviya.
and I'm Evelyn.
And you're listening to Objectively Typed, the podcast where we explore the objective personality system. Today, we are typing Sean Hayes. So a little context about who Sean Hayes is, in case you haven't heard of him. Did you know who he was before?
I knew he was the other guy in Will and Grace. I knew he was not Will.
So Sean Hayes is best known for playing Jack McFarland on Will and Grace. And kind of wanted to offer a little bit of context about Will and Grace and kind of how it came to be. And I think it also offers context about Sean's life. So Will and Grace first came out. It's the sitcom about these two best friends, one of whom is gay, living in New York City. They're both single, trying to date, that whole kind of like Friends, but with a gay flavor to it.
Right.
And it was coming out the same time that Friends was coming out. And one of the things that made Will and Grace different from a lot of other things that were going on at the time is, so Will and Grace came out less than a year or about a year after Ellen DeGeneres came out on her show, and then also to the public. This was the 90s. So like
what year did you say a year? What year was it?
Will and Grace was 98 and Ellen 98. DeGeneres
That's what
was
I thought
97.
I heard you said. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's hard to believe. It's kind of crazy. Like the change that we've had since 1997. Like, I don't know why. I think it was part of my 32-day cleanse, as you call it. I was like looking at Ellen, and a lot of the interviews that she did, wow. If you go back and watch the Oprah episode from right after she came out, it's like to today's audience, it's like offensive. It's kind of offensive, at least for me. Now, granted, I know people have different views, right, and stuff, but like, there's a woman who gets up and basically says, like, how come I don't see the American Family on the cover of Time magazine? Why are you on the cover of Time magazine? And I was just like, wow. In 2019, to hear somebody basically say, like, get your gay self, just be
from my view.
I don't need to see it. A lot of that. I mean, it was like, you forget. I think for me,
it's been only 2 decades, and it feels like night and day. And that's one of the reasons why Will and Grace was the show that it was.
Exactly.
Is because, so like, for a little bit of context, in the US, I wrote this down, in 94, we had Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which if you're not familiar, Don't Ask, Don't Tell is the policy in the U.S. military that, you know what, if you're gay, we're not going to ask you about it. You don't have to tell us about it. And at the time that Don't Ask, Don't Tell came about, it was actually progressive policy.
It was incredibly progressive.
Because being gay in the army, in the military, was not okay at all. So it was a compromise of like, you know what, you can do whatever you want as long as we don't know about it. And then
Clinton got a lot of slack for that. Like, just doing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, he got a lot of slack for
it. It was considered progress. It was considered compromise of some kind. And then also, so that was 94, and that lasted for 11 years before it was overturned. And then DOMA, which is the Defense of Marriage Act, was 96. And that is what defined marriage at a federal level as between a man and a woman. And it wasn't until 2015, so only 4 years ago, that it was overturned with Windsor versus someone, the state, or
I don't know. I should
the government or something like that. But anyway, Edie Windsor is somebody who I would have a lot of fun typing. I don't know if you've ever. She's a spitfire. She is great. So that was 96, and that lasted for 17 years, until 2013. That can't be right. Anyway,
it was 15 sounded right, but
so this is what was happening in the 90s,
right?
And then so DOMA passed in 96, and then at this point there aren't that many celebrities, if any at all, that are out. Like, I think Elton John is about the only person who is out and still has a career,
right?
And then Ellen comes out in 97, and her show immediately cut. And it wasn't until 6 years later in 2003 that she got the Ellen talk show that we all know now.
Exactly. And Rosie around that same time too. Rosie O'Donnell.
I think she was a little later.
She was a little later.
Later in the 90s, but also like still. It was at a time. So like, I was in college, in the mid 2000s, and it was still rare enough that I knew every single gay character on evening TV, on primetime TV.
Oh yeah.
It was still like. So Will and Grace was a big deal. And as I have this quote.
I know the quote.
Ellen
opened the door, Will and Grace kicked it down.
Knocked it down. Yeah.
They did.
And it's still like, even like when Biden was VP, there's a quote from him. I don't think I have it written down, but essentially that like Will and Grace normalized gay culture in the average American household, like made it accessible. So going down that slight tangent.
Well, it's good to know the context, right? Like that's why we do these people, right?
So it's an interesting one, because that is one of the many data points in my head, because Sean Hayes, like Jack McFarland is your, I guess, stereotypical flamboyant gay man.
Right.
But Sean Hayes didn't come out until long after the show ended. So the show ran from 1998 to 2006. And I think Sean didn't come out until 2010.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh, I missed that. Okay.
And he started dating his now husband in 2008. So like, it's just an interesting data point in the context of typing him. I came across, I was just like, I don't know, I was on YouTube, and then I came across an Ellen interview with him, and he is just plowing right over Ellen, and I'm just like, what is going on? So I thought he would be interesting and easy to type, and boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
He was, I think, one of the hardest people I've had typing. I think we both we're just like, I don't know if I'm going to go to the full 512, and I think you're in the same place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, wanna share with us what you do?
I've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
I'm
also nervous.
No, I got looks like an ISTJ won't shut up about people.
Oh, really?
I got looks like an ISTJ won't shut up about people. I don't have a type for him.
Okay.
I was like, I can't prove anything. So the reason why I am withholding a type is because I don't feel like we had the content. Out of everything in our database, there was one long form, there was one 45-minute interview where I felt like I kind of got some content. And so I want to go down the checklist. I went down the checklist, but I just felt like those short clips were not enough to tell me who this person is.
They were hard. Yes.
So that's why, Dave and Shannon often talk about how, like, if you can't prove it, don't. And so the only thing that I can say about Sean Hayes after watching videos of him all week, masculine sensory.
Whoa. Okay.
That is like all I'll say. I mean,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only thing I feel like I could prove. That's the only thing.
Okay. That's so interesting, because I'm on the definitely masculine intuition kind of end with him. But
really, he knew exact dates, but we'll talk about it later.
Yes, but he also did say that that is unusual, and the only reason he knew those two exact dates was because
they were special
dates.
That's my point. Like, we can do it.
Well,
because I don't type people based on what they say. No one ever claims they're saviors. No one ever claims it, because he said that, but then he proceeds to recall everything on a timeline. He recalls exactly where he lived and where it was in relation to that. Like, his sensory memory was masculine. So anyways, we can go on.
I see what you're,
I heard him say
we'll
that.
Get to it.
I heard him say that, but it's like, I
just saw him I think so much of his humor is him punching on the intuition, punching on the patterns. I think that's what makes his humor, kind of in the way that he actually, so when we were typing Levar and we were talking about Brent Spiner, my first, because I had already watched a couple of Sean interviews by that point, I was just like, not Brent Spiner. That was my initial thought. Yeah. But I actually ended up, so there's a few of these I would stick by, but he was confusing to do. But the type that I arrived on, I don't even have fully written out, but the type I arrived on, I'm surprised you got him as looks like an ISTJ.
He reminds me so much of Anderson Cooper. He made me think of Anderson Cooper's Tribe Above Self brother. Like, when I was going through the 32, Sean and Anderson, those two, you talk about not. He is not Anderson Cooper, and Anderson Cooper is SIFI.
Yeah, I remember that. I saw there's somebody in our in the Facebook group. What is his name? It starts with a TH. Theodore? No, it's not Theodore. Anyway, I ended up getting a CFE for Sean. I was.
No. This will be interesting.
Yes,
because I have him on the completely different quadra. I would have said, and he doesn't, and so that's why I withhold type but I would have said TEFI axis and SINE axis.
Okay. Man, as close as we got with Levar, Sean was also, I was so surprised by how hard he was to do.
There wasn't enough content. Like, I think this is an example of there just was not enough stuff out there, because I went through and I simply did a Sean Hayes interview, and then I went down the line trying to find more than 10 minutes of the guy on a talk show, and there's only like 1 or 2 videos like that. Like, and so they're in our database, they're in our data set, but you can't, to me, it's hard to the point of I don't even want to go there, of typing a person based on a 6-minute clip of them on the Tonight Show with David Letterman. And
I agree with you there.
The reason is you never can see their baseline. Like, they never really baseline. They might spike, but even then, like, they're going to, like, it's a little
they're
bit
entertainers. They're putting on a show in some ways. Yes.
Yeah. And so to me, like, it just wasn't, I didn't have enough material that I felt like, yeah, okay, this proves anything. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was interesting to watch those videos, and like and so yeah, we can talk about the round table and the role that I thought he was playing in that. But
that like, round table was the one that threw me off. I was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of getting an idea of his type, and then that round table was like,
exactly, because on the talk shows he's playing and he's like more playful and more sort of out there, but I don't think that's Sean. I think what you saw in that 45-minute video where he's much calmer, much more sort of, I'll say sober, but I just mean like a calmer kind of guy. And you saw it in that round table. He was out punched in that round table, because
that round table, he was just like deep consume mode. Mm-hmm. He was just consuming all of the things. And then if people turned to him, he would like, exactly. So it was in that round table. So I thought he had play blast energy initially, but because on the talk show, it was very much that, like, I actually thought of you. I'm like, whatever his animals are, his play and blast is interrupted.
Yeah.
Like, there's something between those two.
Yeah. And it's because on the talk shows, he does show play blast, but I would too, if I was on Letterman, I would jump off the freaking thing and jump down and play around. Like, I didn't see SEFE. So let's go on, because that is not a type I would have said.
Okay, so let's start at the top. Observer or decider. It looks like we both got him as observers.
No, I said looks like an ISTJ, won't shut up about people, because I don't know. I don't know if he's an observer or a decider. I lean towards decider, because he did make everything about people, like, to the point where, again, so I ended up watching that 45-minute video 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I watched it a couple. Because the SAG interview.
Yeah, the SAG interview, because to me that was the only one that was
like, really good content.
This is him. Yeah. And in that one, she even gives him shit about name dropping, and he gets decider weird when she does it, and then can't stop. And every other time he brings up a name, he's like, "Oh, I did it again. Oh, I name dropped again." Just like there was an IP in the class that they pointed that same thing out, that they
it was
couldn't let it go.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal.
With the creepy.
Oh, you're going to call me creepy again? And so it was the same kind of behavior.
So I actually, on that one, she was I saw it as her being decider weird and him making fun of her, because she was the one who started bringing it up. And she was the one who's like, you're name dropping. And he's like, oh, look at that. I'm name dropping again. Kind of like poking fun at her being decider weird. Because I saw him double deciding so fucking well. Because
I saw him double observing really well too. And I felt like where you were talking about him and Ellen, I felt like that's where he was fucking with Ellen, was that Ellen as a single observer was kind of going all in on an, observer freak out thing. And he was able to like twist these, to me, I saw him on the SINE, and he was playing with her NE connections and flipping them back around and throwing them back at her in a way that she didn't expect at all. And she found that hilarious as a single observer, because normally we're not the ones that are like, she's a, what is she?
She's
ESF?
NEFE.
Yeah,
So
NEFE.
ENTP.
An ENTP. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'll say ENTPs. As ENPs, lead NEs, we're not usually the ones that someone's getting the jump on us, because our NE is usually like one step ahead kind of a thing, because we're making all these connections. And that was where I was like, okay, I see some double observing, because he was coming up with connections that her NE hadn't thought of yet. And he was like hitting her with it. And so I was like, he's dancing around Ellen and definitely making her look a fool. So
he was. I saw that as info versus energy dominant, where she's oh no, wait, she's energy dominant.
Yeah. Oh, I got him as info dominant. I got him as info dominant also.
I actually ended up landing on info dominant as well at the end, but I initially read him as energy dominant. This is one of the things that made him so hard to type, is that like I initially saw this and then I'm like, oh wait, it's actually this.
Because I still think it's because we didn't have enough. I think we just didn't have enough to make a case, because the short interviews just don't, a person can act, everybody does everything. Everybody does everything. And so what you need is like more time to get to know the person. And I just felt like we just didn't have that. And that's why it was so hard.
So one of the things that, so going down, observer, decider.
I don't know.
So you see him as more of a decider.
If I had to pick, yeah, that's what I would have said. But I couldn't make a case. I could not make a solid case.
So the one thing that I am pretty sure on is Savior Effie. That's one thing that I got.
Yeah, I wanted, I guess that was one of those like bias type of things, where initially I was like, yeah, he's probably Savior Effie, but as I got into it, it just felt like I was seeing this like masculine FI demon. Especially like, and he talks about it in that 45-minute video where he talks about needing a Post-it note. What do you want? What's stopping you? Yes. And so it's like he has MFI that's down there that wants to do what it wants, and he's aware of that, but he isn't giving it the permission. So he's tribe above self. Yeah. But I saw that, and so I couldn't prove it. I couldn't prove it because I could not make a case for TE. Absolutely not. I never saw him really doing TE. But what I just saw that axis to me. Yeah. I saw demon FI. It didn't seem like demon TI to me. Okay. Yeah.
I agree with you there. That was like there was a lot of things that I was seeing that were demon DI in general, including him not coming out until 4 years after Will and Grace is done, until 2010. And by 2010 it was like as far as being a celebrity and coming out, it was super safe to do that. Right. At that point. So that was like another one of those things that contributed to him definitely having demon self, demon DI. But I didn't see demon TI per se, but I did see demon DI and I saw savior feeling. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's how I arrived at FE. And he was like I saw a lot of values in the real world, like I was back and forth between NF or SF saviors, but I landed on SF because it was a lot of like in that SAG interview, there's one place where he's talking about what kinds of roles he could play. And he's talking about how, like, at a certain point you just like, well, I'll never play like a brooding detective or something like that. Like, that's just not me. And the interviewer is like, oh no, you totally could. And he's like, no, reality is I can't. Yeah. This is like the obligation to the sensory kind of thing. So I landed on him as SF for that. And I saw a lot of like, this is what matters in the real world, like those kinds of value statements.
Yeah, I also saw a lot of this is what works though, because he also talked about like needing to get to know the parts of the industry that you're not into. Like, you need to know how this works and that works and stuff like that. So, when they're deciding, they being Dave and Shannon, when they're talking about the FITE axis, it's that the TE users have group think for their reasons. Like their reasons are like what works for the tribe or what works in this extroverted way. And so like I said, it's not like I was watching this guy and thought, hey, that's TE. That's a great example of TE. No, not at all. But it was like when he talked about what works, it was what works at scale and what works sort of in a TE type of fashion. Whereas when he talked about feelings, it usually to me was more like personal. It was like what I want and value. So that's why I saw him on the FITE axis within demon demon DI.
Self, yeah.
Well, demon self, yeah, which then made it demon FI. It's not that he wasn't willing to talk about feelings or, you know, that kind of thing. And then this is I mean, my type is kind of a joke, obviously, because like I don't have a type, but like when I say he looks like an ISTJ, I mean he does dress and sort of comport himself in that very like SI, ST, like very clean cut kind of way. You know what I mean? Like very much of like
and
STJ
I think this is
looking
one of the like
type of
punches on that. Like he come like I think with Letterman and with Ellen, like he punches on like what are you wearing that's so like on people's aesthetics.
Yeah. A lot. So that could be masculine S too. I don't know.
I saw it as I was. So, I mean, modalities are at the bottom. We usually get to them later. But I was debating between masculine tribe or feminine tribe, but I saw very much feminine sensory. And so that like punch I saw coming from.
That's interesting.
A little bit of what did you get for his tribe modality? Or no, you didn't?
Feminine.
You got feminine. Okay.
I would have said audio. And I mean, and this is also anecdotal, but I mean, he's a musician going back to being a little kid kind of a thing, you know, trained for 20 years as a concert pianist. And that was the other thing. So we haven't gotten to, let's talk about organize and gather. So
I thought confusing.
I thought absolutely, OI. I mean, again, like none of the, when I'm saying with him, if I say absolutely, I'm talking about, yeah, I saw it in the 45-minute interview, but it proves nothing. I'm not going to keep saying that throughout this entire podcast, but suffice to say, because several times, I mean, he talks about familiarity, things that are familiar as comforting, as a natural thing. Like he talked about Will and Grace coming back. He's like, yeah, people want to go back to like what's familiar and what's comfortable. And he says that as like a given. That's not something he clearly discovered. That's just kind of how he operates. So that was one OI sort of tick. And then another one, and of course, I don't really trust what people say, but he seemed to like when he did go to LA, he had contingency plans. He didn't just go there.
Yeah. No, there was there's
about
a quote.
What he was doing. Yeah.
I've always thought that everyone should have a plan B, C, and D.
Yep.
Yeah. And I agree. I was seeing so much OI and I was seeing so much tribe, but I did not see lead blast, which is why I was like, I saw demon blast. I saw consume above blast. And like, sure, if this is the right moment, I'll go into a blaster lesson, but I don't feel obligated. Like, for example, that a roundtable with all the other comics, like what's his name? Mark went into blaster lessons.
Mark is blast. He's blast last though, and sometimes blast lasters are the ones that are gonna do that.
The lessons.
And
there were quite a few people who went into blaster lessons.
Yeah, there were,
and he was so
completely
introverted.
He was completely out energied there, and I think like I don't know, the top animal is often one of the toughest because it's a byproduct of your saviors. And so it doesn't necessarily, like we both know lead blasters that when we're in a room or something like that, those people aren't talking. You know, the people in our class, people like Amanda and, you know,
Agreed.
Those folks, when they do talk, we listen.
They blast. But that wasn't the case with him. When he does talk, he plays. He doesn't.
Yeah, but how do you know that from what?
Well, because he's not giving you a lesson, he's throwing things around.
But how could we know? Well, I'll stop. I'm just saying, like we don't have examples of it. Like we have like some interviews on like a 3 or 5 minute clip from Letterman or whatever, or we have the longer form one. So I don't know that. I don't know that he doesn't go into blaster lessons based on those.
Yeah, but that case can be made with anything, right? Like. A 45-minute interview that's an intimate, like, sure, you can always get more information, but it is, I think, enough to say that, like, because he did have some blaster lessons there, but it was a lot less blaster lessons, and it was a lot more, here's the sensory that you're asking from me.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he did go into lessons, but actually his interviewer went into lessons more often than he did. I felt the obligation to blast, or the obligation to teach people coming from her than I did from him.
Yeah.
I also think that the round table it's kind of one of the, like, I saw a lot of introverted energy coming from him during that round table, and I think part of it was because he was nervous, so we run to our safety blankets when we're nervous, which is why I think, like with Ellen, where he's comfortable, you see a lot of more of that, really, like, that play is stepping in there. Whereas at the round table, I think he was nervous, and he was a little more, I guess, he's running to his safety blanket, right? Which is
I don't know. I don't know. I get, again, like, I'm just unconvinced, because it's like, yeah, but that feels like you're sort of projecting what was going on in his head in there. Because maybe he was nervous, or maybe he is just more introverted than Mark Maron and everybody in there. Because I mean, so Mark is an ENFP, energy dominant, blast laster. And I don't know what Tracy Morgan is, but he's in that same doc somewhere. And so you have these two very, very extroverted ENFPs that were kind of, ENFPing. Like, I love my type, but like, we can get into a lot of scatter. And to me, what I saw was he is not, if anything, because the type I got him, he has NE. And so I saw it, like, I saw him play, like, he wanted to do the NE. Like, there was a funny part where at one point he said, yeah, I'm just like Tracy. And it's like, no, you're not. You're nothing like Tracy Morgan. But I think, like, there was a part of him that saw, like, yeah, I'm like him, but I can't bring that energy right now because that's not my savior. Like, that's just not my savior. And so I just didn't see OE over OI, but
I didn't see OE over OI. I saw OI over OE. I just did not see lead blast. I saw demon blast. I saw consume above blast. So that was the thing that, like, just wasn't lining up about his type, is that I was seeing savior OI. I was seeing an obligation to have things planned and organized.
Yeah.
But also I wasn't seeing, and I went back and forth between NE and SE, which axis he's on, but I wasn't, his OI didn't seem attached to the sensory.
It did to me.
And when I did see him blasting, it felt like his blast was NF blast. That's the blast that I was seeing, where, like, here is a lesson on the value statements kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
I felt like his blast was S blast, because he would go through, like, yeah, I grew up in this place and we did this and I had this family and I had that.
Is that blast, or is that just sharing sensory details? Because blast is teaching you a lesson specifically. So there was actually just last night, apparently Kevin Hart is SEFE, and Kevin Hart is an excellent storyteller. And I always associate storytelling with SF blast, but it's also just like, because, so, I mean, I think you hear this from me all the time, where when I'm telling you a story, I give you all of the sensory because of this assumption that, okay, I need all of the sensory details in order for me to draw my NI conclusions. Therefore, I'm going to give sensory details to everybody else so they can draw their conclusions.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't have a strong, I saw organize over gather, and I saw S over N, so SI. I mean, I hear what you're saying, that he didn't seem like a blaster, but I also felt like I didn't have enough to say that he's not either, because everybody does everything, and conversely, everybody doesn't do everything too. So, I mean, just because he didn't blast in an environment where he was clearly out energied, that doesn't mean that much to me. I've seen other lead blasters not blast.
I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the SAG interview, not the round table. In the SAG interview, he did go into blaster lessons, but it didn't feel like it was an obligation to give the blaster lessons. It felt more like, oh, if you guys are asking for this, then I will give it to you.
Yeah.
I saw, like, I guess doing the spectrum thing, I saw her obligation to blast even though she was the one doing the interviewing. And that helped me see that I wasn't seeing that obligation from him.
Yeah, it's hard. That top animal can be funny though. That can be a funny one.
Did you?
Because depending on depending on like where I'm at, like, I mean, I'm not always obligated. Like, I mean, I'm lead play, but I don't play all the time. Like,
well, yeah,
I don't know. It depends on the situation. Like almost in this podcast where I'm like, I can't NT figure this out. So I'm kind of like a little bit more like, I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I saw organize over gather, and I saw S over N. So SI.
What did you see that was S over N? Although admittedly,
similar things
I also
to what
saw
you just
S
saw.
over
Yeah,
N.
all the same stuff that you just mentioned is S over N. Yeah, I saw an obligation to the sensory also. And in my, like I said, like if I were to, if you made me, I would think double observer, because I thought he was pretty balanced between those two.
His observers were harder to tease apart. Like, it was obvious that he was tribe above self. It was less obvious that he was OI or OE.
Yeah. So I saw him going back and forth very easily between what I saw as SI and NE, especially in the Ellen interview, where it felt like, you know, she's a lead NE, but she's a single observer. It felt like he was like, yeah, you want to see what it looks like when you put your SI and your NE together? Pow, 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 pow. You know, I mean, it's like, shit, that I wish I could do that myself. Like, I was like, wow, that's wonderful. I myself am like Ellen and will go all the way on one side and lose the other, whereas he was doing that double observing really well. I thought that's why he kind of dominated her in that one, was he was able to double observe his way around her.
I saw him very much like with everyone, including, I think I saw this in the round table as well. Insult, compliment, compliment, insult, insult, compliment, compliment, insult.
Yeah.
Just throwing them out, like, to the point where maybe a little like on Letterman. I think Letterman actually did get a little bit. Was it Letterman? Yeah,
it was Letterman. They got weird.
Yeah. I think Letterman got a little bit uncomfortable.
Offended.
when yeah. And I think Sean took it a little too far.
Yeah.
But by and large, I saw him a lot of that, like. Yeah. And this was the other thing.
It could be double deciding. It could be. I would have loved, I wrote down, I really wish he was SITE, but I don't, like, that would have been nice. It would have been great for him to just be Anderson Cooper's tribe above self type twin, because I was like, I'm getting so much Anderson off of him. Because when I did my 32-day cleanse, Anderson Cooper was my SIFI person, and these two, they're not far from each other. No, they're not far from each other. They're very, I mean, they even kind of look alike. I didn't play the looks like game, but they dress alike. They kind of have a similar energy. They show up to interviews very similarly. Anderson is willing to play a little bit too. I saw a really good
Anderson in Sleep Last Play.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think he might be Sleep Last Play.
Check it.
Yeah, I can check it real quick. Sleep Last Consume, actually.
Sleep Last Consume, play last.
Yeah, and actually,
actually with Anderson, I can see the play last.
Yeah.
I don't think Sean is play last.
I had him, I think, as play last. Like, if I had to. Yeah, I did write down a type, but I don't want to talk about it. Well, I've kind of hinted at it.
I ended up getting him, I think, with Sleep Last and double activated play.
I had him. Let's go down to the animals. Let's just go there, because we've talked about some of the other stuff. Yeah, the reason why I had him is if I had to. Well, first of all, I think we both agreed he was info dominant, so it had to be sleep or play last.
Yeah, I ended up,
which was a little bit unfortunate, because you're right. I mean, he definitely can do play energy. And I went back and forth on this. First of all, to me, he had a more introverted energy. Even though he's willing to get out and have fun and play, his natural state, his default,
his baseline
was more
a little
introverted.
Yeah, it was more introverted than I expected it to be when I first started typing him.
There's a bug. Yeah, so that was one thing, is I was like, yeah, he's more on the introverted side and more info dominant. So that kind of told me blast, sleep, consume in some order, right? And then, like, the only thing I could say for sleep above play is the fact that he seems to sleep process during interviews and things, like, and it seems to be SIFI sleep, because he'll say like, oh, this happened to me and it meant this to me, and I just realized that right now as we're talking. And I know that you could say that's a sleep last thing, but I see more sleep saviors, just sleep processing out loud more so than those of us that are sleep last, because we do it like after we've expended all of our other animals. Like by the time we get to sleep, we're usually not on stage somewhere. Whereas like for him, he'd be like talking and telling you a story, and then he'd go like, oh, and that's why I feel this way about this other thing. So that was the only sort of like, if I had anything,
So
I wrote down processes
like
his
sleep consume blast or sleep blast.
No, I had him blast, sleep consume. Never had blast
consume.
first. I had blast first.
Right,
and I agree with you. Like I didn't think he was a big blaster either, but I had SI or OI and DE.
Yeah.
That's a blast. I mean, it's like sometimes it doesn't look like one of the things I was telling a friend of mine, it's like, if you were to say like, I'm studying canines, right? And the only one you ever saw was a Chihuahua. And then you see a wolf, you're like, that doesn't look like the same animal. Like a wolf is not like, you're not seeing it. And like, yeah, he absolutely doesn't look like your typical blaster. But I mean, I got OI and I got DE. Like, that's.
Yeah, that's blast. I mean, I did too. I got OI and I got DE, the opposite flavor of OI and DE, but yeah.
Anyway, so I wrote down, he's processing his history in real time. So I was like, SI sleep ? And then he seemed, and then as I was noticing it, it's like he'll kind of go into like SIFI on stage, like he'll just start to talk about it. Yeah. At least the way that SIFI sleep works for me.
When you say he starts to talk about it, you mean he starts processing on stage?
Yeah. Well, he processes his past history for what it meant to him, like what it valued.
There was one moment in the SAG interview when he's like, oh, I just realized this just now.
And I saw that a couple times. I can't remember if there was another interview where he did something. It might have been Letterman. Letterman was another one where I felt like I got closer to his baseline.
There was actually a long Letterman interview, not Letterman, the other guy, the one who was on The Late Show before Colbert. What's his name? Anyway, there was a long form interview that I realized I never included in the type doc, and then I couldn't find it again.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
But what were we just talking about? I lost my train of thought.
We were talking about him processing basically in real time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down Savior Consume too. So I mean, I hear what you're saying. Like I definitely was getting that too. But again, it's like, I don't know, what do you do?
I think this is one of the so I guess a case could be made for savior or demon. I saw this as a demon, but so in the SAG interview where he's talking about that, like, that he does go into a little blaster lesson of like, you need to ask yourself two questions. What do you want? And what are you waiting for?
Correct.
And you need to write it down. And
that was so, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, go for it.
Well, that was like, to me, that seemed very, although, I'm going back and forth. Anyways, let me actually finish the thought. OE, brain stop. That, like, I need to write this down and remind myself of this over and over. Number one, really felt like a demon FI thing to me, because it was like, I need to reconnect with what I want. I agree. Demon DI.
I think want can refer to TI as well.
Yeah.
I think
they usually don't say it like that, though.
No,
their language isn't. Their language is like, what's true for me? What's my personal truth? What's true for you? Like, to me, a demon TI person would say, write down your personal truth on a sticky note and look at it every day, kind of a thing, but yeah, so that, and then also the SI of like writing down your known information for yourself over and over and over. So to me, that was very SIFI sleep.
I saw it as like, it'll fly away if I don't write it down. Kind of in the same way, like I don't have SI, but I need to write those things down because they're so movable and they will just flit away if I don't lock them down in some sensory.
Yeah, to me that wasn't how he was saying it though, because he was saying it as like a motivational
just
technique.
just like write it down as this, like, this is what I want, and then ask yourself, what are you waiting for? Like, why aren't you working towards it right now?
Why aren't you working towards it? Yeah, exactly.
So
it's not a you know, I don't remember where this restaurant is kind of a thing. It's more of like my FI, and look, I actually do that same thing, but I have sleep last, but I do that same thing of like, what is it that I want? And I have to like write it down, and I have a recurring thing to like look at it. And so he's doing the same thing that I do. So yeah, I mean, I had him as Savior Savior Sleep.
I had that as like, as an example. So this is, towards the end of the interview, and it is like, the big lesson that he's giving them. One of the big lessons that he's giving them, right? So this is his blast.
Yeah.
And the flavor of that blast seemed like NF to me. But also it seemed like this was a discovery for him rather than something that comes easily and naturally.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, it did come as a discovery for sure, but it felt like he was discovering his demon DI.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you on that.
The discovery wasn't organizing your known information. The discovery was the DI part of that.
Agree with you, but also I think the other side of this is that like, it would be a demon sleep thing. I think whether it's SI sleep or NI sleep, I think that's a demon sleep.
I don't know that it is though, because I think what I've seen with the Savior sleeps, like the difference between that, in my observation, the difference between Savior sleep and demon sleep isn't that the Savior sleeps just know this information naturally and easily.
It's like we're obligated to it. Yeah.
Well, right. And it is that like they will like stop a conversation so that they can sleep process, that kind of thing, where it's like the sleep is an interrupter before they can move on to the next thing. And so like, that's why I'm like, I don't know. Like, yeah, obviously this practice was something he discovered. Like it was definitely a learning, and I could definitely make an argument that was a demon sleep thing. But to me, it was like a stronger indicator of the demon DI, because we know that his OI is something he's got. Like it wasn't like, for me, it would be a combo package of like both. I'm organizing my known information and it's my demon DI. For him, it was like he organizes his known information naturally and easily all the time. And what's new is like actually connecting with his DI. So that's where it was like, yeah, it's definitely demon DI thing. And I don't know that it's necessarily a demon sleep thing.
Okay.
That, I don't know though.
I considered, so as far as his animal stacking, I considered play, consume, blast, sleep. And then the other one I considered was blast, sleep, play, consume.
Yeah. If I didn't really think he's an OI, I could see play, consume, blast, sleep.
Agreed. Like this was one of the things that even like right until we hit record, I was going back and forth between OI or play at the top.
Yeah.
And it was, which is one of the reasons, and I know I have a blind spot where blast, sleep, play, consume is concerned.
I didn't consider, now I'm just going off script, because I didn't consider, okay, so the closest I got him was maybe TESI, even though I wasn't a huge fan of that, but I didn't consider the TENEs, and actually I could see him being in there with those guys.
I just don't see Savior TE.
Well, it's certainly not masculine. It's not masculine TE.
Yes. Definitely not masculine TE.
I could see that. I'll say it this way. I could see him on the TE FI axis. I mean, that's what I said before, like, and with demon FI, right? It's like, no, I wouldn't use this as an example of TE. Feminine TE can be a little bit funny that way too, anyway, like in my experience. That it's
feminine TE can look like FE very easily.
It can. And so, and when I'm looking at those people, I don't know. We don't have a ton. We don't have a ton, but I could see an argument for TES or TENE, play, consume, blast, sleep. I could see that.
TENE. So, this was the thing. I mentioned this. I wanted to mention this earlier. When I was looking at him and when I was looking at how he was interacting with the tribe and how and I think he does this, like, I think this is a very natural, effortless thing to do, where like when he does throw out a bomb at somebody, like a little punchy little like jab, like he'd be great at roasting. Like I'm sure
he started to do that to David Letterman.
Yes.
Even David Letterman said, God, is this a roast? Jesus.
Yeah. And he roasted Ellen as well and all of this other stuff, but then he brings it right back. Like, so
brings it back.
He throws out an insult at Letterman, like, oh my God, what are you wearing? Or whatever it was. He makes some joke about his outfit. And then the next thing he does is, oh my God, your audience is the best.
Yeah.
You have a really great audience here. Like, going back and forth. And it reminded me of Gary Vee. How Gary Vee does this, like, even though Gary Vee is a decider, how Gary Vee does this little back and forth. And even with like, when he is going back to like reestablish trust, so to speak, he offers some kind of like just like touch or something like that to just like it just I guess it reminded me of Gary Vee. I think that's one of the reasons why I arrived at SEFE, because
I could see that direction. But I'm looking at my list. I could see FENE, play, consume, sleep, even.
FENE, play, consume, sleep. I could see that.
Yeah.
I considered actually Ellen's type, but different modality. Which would be like NEFE, play, consume, sleep, blast, right? So blast, last.
Yeah.
But you're right. I definitely saw that obligation to organize.
Yeah.
And he also goes on to a lesson. So this one was, again, a confusing one, but he goes on to a lesson talking about, this is at the end of the SAG interview, learn all the different parts of the industry.
Yeah, I was talking about that. Yeah, that's where, to me, it was like, if I had to make an argument for TE, that's the best one I got. Like, it's not a great one. I saw that
as the, like, demon OE, like, go and gather this into your OI box.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
But even in that same one, he also talks about how he hates writing and he had to force himself to write, and now he loves it. So that was another thing that I saw as like
I almost saw that as a consume thing. I wrote that down as a savior consume blip, because I was like, is that savior consume? Because it's saying basically like, I don't want to go outside of what I like.
I saw that as demon blast, and savior consume, with this obligation to do what I like and pushing yourself through to do the thing that might be harder. But at the end offers a lot of value. He was just, I remember, so I did my first pass like a month ago in the beginning of September, and I remember when I came across that roundtable interview with all the comedians, being like, what the fuck? I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what Sean's type is.
Yeah.
And just really confused by it.
Yeah, I think the ENFPs just killed him there. That's what I got from that. I mean, I know Mark is an ENFP, and I felt like Tracy Morgan was like somewhere in his doc, somewhere in there. I don't know. EP is some flavor or something. And between the two of them especially, they kind of overpowered the room. It wasn't just, I mean, Sean was definitely like out of the group. He was probably the most, but Ray Romano kind of struggled in that interview too.
He was, I think, of everyone, Sean was the quietest.
Yeah, Sean was the quietest.
Ray was, Ray was.
That's what I'm saying. Present. If I had to pick the next,
so now that I'm thinking about it.
And Ray is SITI. And that was the other one I was comparing. I was like, he's not Ray.
Yeah, but Ray goes up. Ray is sleep, last, play.
Yes, he is.
So he's got that energy going on. And I had considered that for Sean. Now though, not like thinking about it now, I guess I could see a case for him being like sleep, consume, blast, play, where there is that dividing line between the sleep, consume and the blast, play. And so like when he's on Ellen, he's in that blast, play mode. Whereas at that round table, he was in sleep, consume.
Yes, I could see that.
I could see that, except that he's not self above tribe. He is not self above
tribe. He's not self above tribe.
So he's definitely tribe above self. Yeah, I guess he has to have blast at the top.
He would have to be blast. I mean, it's like, I know it ain't. Look, it's a chihuahua.
Consume, sleep.
I'm like, I don't know.
Sleep, consume, play.
Yeah, that's what I got. Blast, sleep, consume, play.
I feel like if he was blast, sleep, though, at that interview, he was just in such a mope headspace. Like he was just taking everything in and processing it.
Yeah.
Right. He was very much he was just like a sponge taking everything in.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Wait, what do you guys think? Has anyone typed him? Like, what do you guys see when you see Sean?
Exactly.
He was.
Yeah. I mean, of course, the quick answer. Well, okay, let's go down to the modalities, right? Feminine, extroverted, decider. I think we agreed on that. And for me, it was partially
I was back and forth between feminine and masculine for this.
Yeah.
Because he has punch, and I was trying to figure out where his punch is coming from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not a typical punch. It's not the way that you and I punch.
No, so that's.
And I wondered if it was because he was punching on FE. Maybe that's why it was, or he's punching on NI, or like he's punching on something that's unfamiliar to me.
That's true. Yeah. Well, in but the DIs, like the masculine introverted deciders punch too. They punch differently.
And I think that was like,
and they're more willing to pull it. And that was, like you said, like he would like sniper hit you and then kind of pull it.
Yeah. So
yeah. Whereas like we would do a lot more, I think, it's the dog energy. It's like a dog versus cat, right? It's the bark versus
his
just like
punch
snipe.
Is cat. Yes, yeah. It was a sniper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just this week, Nikki, I think her name is Glazer, something like that, has a new special drop on Netflix, and Raja and I have been talking about it, and she is like, her way of sniping reminds me a lot of Sean's.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's just like this, like very direct, really harsh.
It can
be too true. It's like
too true.
And yes, and it's because it's too true. That's what I think, it has that cat energy rather than dog energy. Because when we snipe, we're just like, it's like an assault rifle. We're just like all over the place, right? Where they're just like bam, right in the feels.
Right in you. Yeah. Yes. And I know, I live with a Scorpio. I was raised by a Scorpio. They're so good at that. And it's that, yeah. And then, so the sensory, it's funny, I wish I had written down more, because I don't know that I have a good, because I thought his masculine sensory was pretty obvious, but clearly you saw different. And so I'm like,
I definitely saw a memory for details, but it didn't feel like masculine sensory.
It felt like masculine SI to me, because it was also like very, you know how they talk about how the masculine sensory is like on a timeline or whatever, and like he indexes his memories on like this happened and then this happened. Like that's exactly how he described his history and his past and things like that. Like it was very much on that, like it's like masculine sensory for me, the memory part of it. And granted, I can't fully separate it out because I'm kinesthetic, but like the memory part of it is like everything is sort of like placed in relation to something else is the way it works. Yes. And so like, that's how I heard him describing it. And then he would say a part of it that was like not totally related to what he was talking about, but it was just like, and I do this too, where I'll be talking to somebody and I'll just offhandedly say like, you know, the one that was across the street from the burger place that used to be there, but that burned down. You know, that kind of thing. It's like, wait, that had nothing to do with anything else, but it's just my memory has indexed it that way. Like he was talking about that restaurant that he used to work at, and he's like, yeah, it's a breakfast, lunch, and dinner place, and now it's gone. And I'm just like, huh. And that's why to me it was like his memory appeared to be the masculine sensory style of
detail stuff. Okay.
Yeah, well, not so much detail, but it's just like the way that we remember things is just very much like relation. It's almost like relational.
Yeah.
Whereas like my husband,
we're encoding things by their relations to each other.
Whereas like my husband with his feminine sensory memory, that's not how his memory is not relational like that. Like in the sort of almost like blocky type of way of like a Tetris board. That's not really.
It's not operating by deduction, which is what I feel like. Like I feel like kinesthetic memory is encoding things through their relationships, and based on those relationships I can deduce what happened there and there.
Yeah.
Because I have this like network of relationships in my head.
Yeah. Whereas theirs is more, feminine sensory memory is, and I think this is why it's harder for them to remember stuff, is because they don't do that. Like it's not relational in that same sort of way. It's like, Yeah.
So I was actually talking to somebody about yesterday. I ended up spending like a couple of hours explaining OPS to one of my roommates.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were talking about kinesthetic, and I was trying to describe it, I was using a lot of this language. He asked the question, like, so then testers, what is the opposite of this for testers?
Right.
And I wonder if it's, so we are maintaining a network of relationships of sensory data.
Yeah.
And I wonder if testers are maintaining a network of relationships of patterns.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And I don't even know what the fuck that means, but it somehow makes sense.
Yeah. Well, concepts and patterns. Yeah. Concepts too. I would, throw it in there that way.
Patterns.
I think that's how Luis does it, is he kind of remembers the concept of a certain area or whatever. And it helps that he's like, save your intuition too. I'm also, okay, I'm going to sneeze.
Be blessed. It's okay. We'll snip this out.
Okay. Well, maybe. Hold on.
Take your time. Bless you.
There it goes. Okay. Sorry, everybody. I have allergies. Okay.
Yeah, it's that time of year. Oh, Anderson. I'm looking up Anderson's
I've got it.
type. Okay, so he is visual. He's FM, SI, FI, sleep, blast, consume.
Yes, he is.
Play last.
Play last, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Info dominant.
I feel like Anderson has, it might be because of the industries that they're in, right? Because he's in news and Sean is in entertainment. Yeah. But I feel like Anderson has a bit more of a stick up his ass than Sean does.
Well, he's also SIFI too. So
I wonder if it's not that. So I'm still like, the nature of Sean's punchiness feels weird and different to me, right? I'm still a little stuck on that. I wonder if that's not because of the potentially visual modality that, because Anderson also, like, if that's not the similarities visual? You're seeing,
that'd be interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
Because we have so few visuals, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because your brain also jumped to Monica at one point.
I did. Well, because I said TENE.
Oh, that's right. We were talking about TENE at the time.
Yeah, but still. Well, and I'm looking at the checklist, solid with the concepts, movable with the facts. He didn't seem movable with those facts, but, that could be Savior S also.
Yeah.
But like you said, we don't have a ton of
he's just confusing on every single axis.
Feminine Savior S. That's a whole different beast.
Do we? Yeah.
Well, Shannon.
I mean, yeah, Shannon, Anderson.
Yeah, and Anderson, but it's like that is interesting because it's SI or well, in the case of like Anderson Cooper, it's SI, which is usually SI is kind of a stickler of a function anyway. Like to me, it feels a little masculine like anyway.
And that's the thing. Like if he had masculine SI at the top, we would know it. Even from 145-minute interview.
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah, because Tiger Woods, it was like in your face, like for sure. Yeah. So if it was feminine SI
at the top, then that would be a lot harder to spot.
Yeah, and it would feel kind of masculine-ish because it would be SI, which is really about the organized history.
He'd have those little jabs on the intuition on
which I think he
jokes.
Yeah.
So he felt my very first like bias coming into typing him was NEFE. NEFE play blast crackhead.
I would almost flip that then and say like FENE, and that's the reason why he's different from Ellen. That's because
he's more of a decider.
Yeah, and he is. And then and then I could see the FE being the reason why he's a little playful with the feelings, but yet he pulls it back. Because the FEs, they kind of, just like you and I, we have all of our what works and our reasons, and we're willing to kind of bang the blocks together. FEs are willing to bang the feelings together a lot more, than we are.
Yes.
Like we can't bang feelings together because somebody's going to get hurt because it's introverted. Whereas
if he's FESE, then it would make sense for why Gary V popped into my head.
Well, FENE is what I'm thinking.
Or FENE, but yeah, that too.
Or FESI? I don't know.
No,
because we both saw him organizing.
But you're right. We did.
I don't know.
But on the other hand, we have what? We have Hannah Hart and Jessica McCabe as examples of FE or of SF Blast, and nobody saw them as Savior SI. Most people saw.
I did.
Of course,
I actually did.
I remember had the SI. Jessica was your first one.
Yes, that was my table flip moment, as everybody knows. But what I didn't see was the FE, which I'm not good at. So I mean, I don't know. I either think they're FE when they're not, or I think they're not FE when they are.
But the other question that's interesting is, so your best friend, you see her as FESE, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you see similarities between Sean and her?
Well, I think she has masculine FE, so she's when she punches on the FE, it is more in that Gary V type style.
The Gary V punch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if Sean is double feminine, FES, then he would be Jessica McCabe's type.
I just saw OI. I just saw so much OI with him.
I did
That's
too.
the problem. Yeah. So no. Anyways, yeah. So I go back to what I said. Looks like an ISTJ, but won't shut up about people. I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
I think so. I didn't see him spiking on people. I saw him name dropping a lot. Yeah. But I also I noticed in myself that I name drop, and that's because I'm trying to give sensory to people.
Yeah. I thought about that too, actually. I did actually think about that. That his name dropping could just be, in my mind, SI. I still kind of feel like he's SINE axis. I'm still seeing that. But the name dropping could just be like, let me give you this organized sensory, like as part of that story.
If he is blast, sleep, consume, play, if his play is at the, I think if he had play last, I don't think he would have ended up in entertainment the way that he is.
Who, I don't know. You probably know the play lasters better than me.
So Karen, it has that animal stacking, and she is
who's Karen?
NF blaster.
No. I'm talking about entertainment, like celebrities. Like
celebrities.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. Like I would be curious to compare, but I can't think of any celebrities.
Talking about blast, sleep, consume.
No, just any play last entertainers. I'll take any play last entertainers as a start. Because I can't. Because what you're saying is
nobody.
Yeah, what you were saying is if he was play last, he wouldn't be in entertainment, and that's an interesting.
Not that he wouldn't be in entertainment, but he got into it when he was very young.
Yeah,
and he talks about how he was the comedy relief and the one causing the little he was the class clown of his family,
right?
Essentially,
right,
and I don't think he would have stepped into that role if his play was last. But then again, who knows? Because our environment, sometimes we have to step into a role that doesn't feel natural.
Okay. Simon Pegg is one. FISE, consume, sleep, blast. Jerry Seinfeld is another. Sleep, consume, blast. He definitely is play last.
Seinfeld, yeah.
Yeah. Ed Harris is one. And see, Ed Harris is is a reason why I'm this isn't I would not think that Sean Hayes and Ed Harris are similar. I just wouldn't. And yet that was kind of the type I was angling to. And I'm this is why I'm I don't know.
Anne Hathaway.
Oh, there you go.
Anne Hathaway is NIFI, sleep, blast, consume. Wow. That's surprising.
Well, so Anne Hathaway. Yep.
Ethan
Hawke.
I
knew she was NIFI. Yeah, I knew that one. Anyways, so there aren't tons of them. Jennifer Aniston. Oh no,
Reese Witherspoon.
What the heck?
Oh, that's right. Reese Witherspoon is my double feminine twin, so she's play last.
Oops, I accidentally made somebody.
But it's not so much whether or not he'd be entertainment as a playlaster. It's that his flavor of entertainment,
right?
Jack McFarland or Sean Hayes when he's on Ellen, that kind of level of play where he's just boom 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 everything that's going on.
Yeah. Well,
I can't conceive of myself doing that when I'm so young so easily.
With you on the Ellen example. I'm not with you on the character because just like when we talked with Levar, sometimes people's characters are the
exact opposite. Yes. But the reason he got that role was because at his audition, he brought in some of that play.
He brought in some play energy. Yeah.
Yes.
True.
That you're looking at my ass, aren't you?
You're looking at my ass. Yeah, exactly. Which he told every time.
Yeah.
Going over that same known information that I'd be that my OE just filters right out. Anyways,
the other thing that's interesting is that one of the reasons that it's hard to find content about him is because he hates doing talk shows and things like that. Like he mentioned when he was on Megan Mullally's show.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also Demon DI, where he doesn't want to expose that DI to the public.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways.
I think he wants to. Oh, and that was the other thing that popped into my head. We talk about how Thomas's SF play is very like, a little bit of a class clown, come in, cause all this chaos, peace out. I feel like Sean's play is not that.
Yeah, I don't know though, because then Thomas himself said how any FI consume wants to make you feel uncomfortable and making these connections and being kind of random. And I saw him. Yeah, but I know I'm not saying that Sean is any FI consume. No. I'm saying that he had a little bit of that too, just like we just talked about how he roasted people and did that. Like he was making people feel uncomfortable and he was making connections across a wide spectrum. Like he was doing that. He was very good.
Which sounds like NF play.
It could be NF play. Yeah, it could be.
I'm not stuck on his observers, but I'm still very much.
Yeah, I think where we're getting stuck. I think where we're getting stuck is the fact that he clearly seems to be Savior OI, but yet we keep wanting to put an OE.
The play at the top and the blast or further high down.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I thought I was OI for a long, long time. But I don't know. It just felt like so natural to him. I don't know.
It did. So, but it also, he's just, I mean, I have to say, like, I never thought about Sean Hayes, but I have a lot of respect for him.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah. It was a riddle wrapped in an enigma. He needs to do a podcast or something, and then
he does.
That would help. So, yeah, I've got to go soon.
Yeah. He was... info versus energy. I ended up landing on info at the very end, and in large part because the final blaster lesson that he gave at the SAG interview was information.
Yeah,
and go after the information.
Right. And I feel like that was another reason he felt uncomfortable in that round table, was because maybe he was told, like, we're going to get together and have like an info conversation or something. And he's like, all these energy doms, like, being energy dom in front of me, I think it was a little bit like shell shock of this isn't where I like to be, because I know I do that. That's another one that I do, that if I'm in a group that's all energy dominant and I'm the one info dominant person, suddenly it's just like I'm just quiet and I just shut down. It's like I just shut down. It's like, who is this person? And it's just because like I'm not energy dominant, and so like I'm just like I'm not there for it, kind of a thing. Like it's not like, but it's not like conscious. It's not like I'm sitting there like, no, I don't want to play with you people. It's just more like I don't know. It's almost like you don't know what to do, so then you're just sort of like, well, I just won't.
You're just free.
Sit.
And that sounds like a Demon Blast thing, doesn't it? Like, let me just sit and take in information instead of jumping in and doing.
I don't know though. It also could just be I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily one or the other, because I've heard even the high blasters, if they feel like they're just in an uncomfortable situation, they're not going to blast either.
That's true. So. That's true.
Yeah.
But great. But that one I saw as him, he seemed like, when you look at all the other comics that were at that round table, he seemed like an outlier. And I feel like, especially with Demon DI, I'm assuming, but it felt like he had imposter syndrome going on. Like, why was I invited among all of these greats?
Well, and I mean,
because he's an amazing comedian, but
Ray is DI. A lot of comedians are Savior. Well, I mean, it depends. There's both, but you're right. In that room, especially like the sort of the people who were kind of setting the tone were more self above tribe.
Oh my God, what is his name? There was one guy who was so sleep last and using that round table to process.
Are you talking about Tracy Morgan?
I don't remember.
Because Tracy Morgan just does that. I am not a Tracy Morgan fan, and I don't know if they've typed him. I think I tried to look. He would be interesting to type.
Who is Tracy Morgan?
He was the black guy. I mean, I think there was only one black guy at the table. Right.
Yes, it was Tracy Morgan.
Yeah, it's Tracy Morgan.
Looked up the picture.
Evelyn's not a Tracy Morgan fan.
Yeah.
Never have been.
But he was definitely sleep last because he was taking that round table to process.
I don't know though. Why do you say that? Like, why do you, now I'm going to be the bastion of sleep lasters, but I would never do that. So it feels like sleep last is not the one that's going to, do that.
Well, I mean, in the sense that like,
I
as
feel
people
like,
were bringing up, so a lot of the conversation was actually surprisingly, a lot of sleep questions were being asked. There was a lot of questions that were being asked that kind of require you to introspect, right? And Tracy was just very often, as people were sharing their introspections, Tracy's response was like, "Oh, I never thought about that," or "Oh, you're right." Like he hasn't done this introspection, whereas a lot of the other sleep saviors at the table have.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I feel like Sleep Last gets a rap of being kind of, that guy, like Tracy Morgan of like,
That's not to say all sleep lasters are like that. I mean,
no, I'm not.
Like,
I know. Not all, the classic thing, but I'm just saying there's this sort of idea that just because somebody's like that, oh, they're so sleep last. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I just know that it was definitely like play blast energy for sure. I'll give you that. Sleep demon. But anyways, I've got to go.
Yes,
I actually had to go a little bit ago. So
this was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I figured it would be, even though I didn't really have a type. And I've actually kind of been wanting to do one like this where I don't prove something, because I think that's important. I actually think it's important in OPS, because a lot of people, now I'm going to go into blaster lesson. A lot of people like want to look at something and say, well, that guy is this, or I see that, or whatever. But it's like Dave and Shannon are constantly telling us, like, you need to be able to prove it. You need to be able to come with it. And I know that, sometimes people have even suggested people and they've said there's not enough content on that person. And the person's thinking, yeah, there is, but there's not, because you can't really prove a coin. And so like, I'm okay to come on here and say, I could not prove what I saw. I can tell you some things that I observed. And so in a given room, the kind of role he was playing or what he reminded me of, but I could not prove really much of anything. Yeah,
he was hard. I love what he's doing though, and I love his energy. I don't know that he's somebody I'd want to kick it with, because I think I would be afraid of his sniper rifle.
He's got a sniper rifle for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, so yeah, maybe that is, I think I would probably argue double feminine at the end of that conversation, but anyway. Yes, you have to go.
Yep.
As do I. We'd love to hear from you guys. What did you think? Yeah. Did you go about typing Sean? What did you get for his type? Like, man, he was tricky. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Make sure to subscribe and like. We'd love to hear from you guys. Ideas, topic discussions, all that jazz. Thanks for watching or listening, whatever your favorite mode of consumption is. I'm Virsaviya.
And I'm Evelyn.
Have a great day.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
And scene.
And scene. I already turned it off.